Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more turkey patterning, and today we've got another combo that we've never tested, but I've got some really high hopes for it because it should be a really nice performer. But right off the bat, I do apologize if the microphone still sounds a little bit different. I had to change the setup due to some issues with it here recently, so I'm still working through all the fine tuning and settings and stuff to get it dialed back in, so bear with me on that. But as for the shells I brought out here today, I got out some more of the Kinetic Gunwerks shells, but these ones are the 12 gauge, 3-inch, 2-ounce payload of TSS 9s moving about 1200 feet per second, and we have tested these before on the channel with some really nice results from them, so I expect that trend to continue since Kinetic has always been a very nice performer for us, especially through the setup, or at least the choke combo that we've got today. But as for that setup, I brought out my Remington 1187. This one has a 28-inch barrel on it, but for the choke we've got an Indian Creek 665 in here. We know this choke can give us some good performances with TSS 9s, so I've definitely got some high hopes that it will also perform well with these Kinetic 9s. But as for today's test, everything is set up the same as usual. I've got the turkey target at 40 yards and the chronograph so we can get our velocity from the shells. So let's get you guys a view of that target and see what the Kinetic 2-ounce 9s can give us through the 1187 and the 665 Indian Creek. Should be pretty good looking, but let's take our shot and see what we get. Alright, so that shell gave us 1195 through the chrono. The boss claim is 1200, so from that 28-inch barrel, we're 5 feet per second under what they're claiming. So I'd say we're looking pretty good, very close to exactly what they're saying we should be. But how did they actually pattern through that Indian Creek down there at 40 yards? Let's go check it out and see. Alright, so now we're down here at our 40-yard paper, and yeah, that is a pretty nasty looking pattern. Now, unfortunately, we were off to the left just a little bit, and although it is the first shot of the day for me, it could have been me maybe, but I don't feel like it was. I don't know if it's just me, but I kind of have been thinking that some of these Indian Creek chokes really like to wander a little bit all over the place with their points of impact if you change your shell at all, or at least way more than some other chokes do. But that's why you always test your setup before you actually take it out on a hunt and see where it actually is hitting and what it's doing. But what we see here is absolutely devastating, no doubt about it. Now yes, even though we were off to the left, we do absolutely have a dead bird. There's a couple up through the bottom of the brain and down the spine and stuff, so yeah, you would have still absolutely gotten that turkey, although you may have blown all the feathers right off of his back there. So yeah, that's about what I was hoping to see or expecting to see out of this combo. Very nice pattern. It's got a super hot core right down in here in the middle, just above that Birchwood KC logo. That's a lot of pellets through there. Really the only void that I see anywhere close to the center core area is just off the left edge right over there. There's a little bit of a void, but that's nothing major at all. It would not be a detriment to that pattern. Around the edges, we do open it up just a little bit, but it stays pretty even and it gives you a little bit of leeway to work with without just being scattered all over the place. And really, we don't see a ton of flyers. Maybe one or two up there at the top and maybe one or two over on the right, but really not much there as far as flyers go. So I will back up here, give you a view of the whole pattern, and I will pop up the equivalent of a 10-inch circle in editing so you guys can see what the core actually looks like, because it's very nice looking. Definitely hard to complain about that kind of a pattern. For a lot of people, that's probably about perfect. That's going to be more than good enough at 40 yards. If you wanted to push it to 45 and 50 yards, you would still be perfectly fine. And that's a pattern that you're going to run out of energy with the TSS 9 before you run out of pattern capability. So that's definitely good. It is pretty tight. It's pretty hot throughout the core of the pattern, but it's not overly tight necessarily. Of course, inside at 20 yards or something, it's going to be a very tight pattern no matter what, but in that mid-range 25 to 30 yard type of area, it's going to give you a little bit more leeway to work with. So I really like how that pattern performed for a hunting pattern all day long. You could hunt thicker timber with that. You could absolutely be confident out in a field where you could have a 25-yard shot or a 50-yard shot. Either one would do the job just fine. Like we've already mentioned, there's really no flyers to deal with. It's a pretty even and uniform spread, really no major voids or anything in there. So is that about perfect for these shells or this combination? I don't know, maybe. We might be able to get a tighter pattern with a tighter choke or something like that, but do you really need it with that kind of a combination? I really don't think you do. So once again, these Kinetic shells have shown themselves to be some very nice performers. I wouldn't hesitate to turkey hunt with that any day of the week. That's a very nice pattern, and although I was expecting this combination to give us a nice performance like this, sometimes Indian Creek chokes can be a little picky, even with these higher end loads, but I don't think that's what we saw here today. I'll take that pattern all day long, no doubt about it. And here's the wad out of that shell. I believe just by looking at the ribs on the outside of here, this is potentially one of the Ballistic Products low bore contact wads, or a variant of it, or something similar to it at least. I'm not a reloading expert, so somebody can confirm or deny that. But if that is the case here, we know these are very good performing wads through pretty much anything, and this one is really no exception. Looks perfectly fine, nothing stuck down in there, no major damage or anything. And Indian Creek chokes are kind of known for banging up wads a little bit, but this one looks perfectly fine. Definitely nothing out of the ordinary, and I clearly say that it did its job pretty well for us today. All right, y'all, well, what did you think about that performance right there? Definitely pretty impressive looking, no doubt about it. I'll take that pattern any day of the week. It's got a nice hot core with really not a whole lot of voids to be concerned about. Maybe a couple of flyers around the edges, but I'll take 4 or 5 flyers for that kind of a performance all day long. Definitely nothing to be concerned with there. That's a pattern that gives you a nice little bit of wiggle room at 40 yards. It's gonna be tight in at closer ranges, but it might not be as tight as some of the other combinations we've tested. But you could still absolutely push that to 50 yards all day long, no doubt about it, and be perfectly fine. So if you're a field hunter or something, that would do perfectly fine for you. So really, not a whole lot we can argue with or complain about on that pattern. It's just a solid, huntable performance all day long. I wouldn't hesitate to take that out in the turkey woods. But let me know all your thoughts down below. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of these Kinetic 12 gauge shells? And if so, what kind of results have you seen from them? Would you hunt with that combination? Or is it a little bit too tight for you still, or anything like that? And what other shell and choke combos do you want to see us try with either those Kinetic 12 gauge 9s or that Indian Creek 665 choke? Let me know all that down below. Overall, I think the pattern pretty well speaks for itself. Very solid performance there. And really, I don't think a lot of us have much to complain about there. That's pretty close to about the perfect hunting pattern. So definitely not a disappointment today at all from this combination, that's for sure. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All that information will be in the description down below if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.